So let me just recap. So we've got the Kali Yuga ended in 1915. So the beings that have kind of cashed in on that particular cycle, the Kali Yuga cycle, need to keep this illusion going that, you know, everything is destructive and awful and dense and heavy, yeah. So they have to keep that illusion going, because if that illusion breaks, then they are gone. Yeah, they are gone. If they're not already gone, we don't know that. So how they keep that illusion going? They plant the little seeds. They plant seeds of fear. Or big seeds of fear. 9/11. Huge seed. Yeah? Oh my God! The whole world's a terrorist. Okay. Well, that's basically what they say. Don't trust anyone. Everyone's a terrorist. You know, oh, there's someone a bit different over there. They're a terrorist. You know.
Telegram is a terrorist.
Exactly. Slightly out of the box. Oh, it's definitely must be extremist then if it's out of the box.
Yeah.
So yeah, they plant these little seeds of fear, yeah, because they are not created beings. We are. So if they're planting those fear seeds in us, in our minds, because that's the way they get through. Nothing can get into your body, but they can get in if you allow them. If you sign that contract, they can get in through your mind, yeah? So because we are creator beings, and they are not, they plant the seeds, but then we will create reality from those seeds. So unless you have a way to counteract that, to reprogram that seed,
or plant your own seeds.
well, you would also have to negate that seed that's been planted. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter how many good seeds you planted, there would be that fear seed there still. So you would have to weed out that seed, yeah, which is what mind magic's all about, yeah. So, in order for this illusion of the Kali Yuga cycle to be continued, they're planting those seeds, yeah, and we're creating the reality that we see, which is, pardon me, been one of war, hunger, poverty, disease, division, all this stuff, yeah, which is all coming from those seeds, yeah. So how do you combat those fear seeds? It would be it's a frequency. It always comes back to frequency and light, because different frequencies will show up as different lights, and different lights will have different frequencies. They are one and the same thing, yeah. So how you would negate those fear seeds and reprogram them, because when you look at any sci-fi, yeah, when they've got nanotechnology invading something, what do? They reprogram the nanotech, don't they? That's what they do. So we need to reprogram these seeds, and we would do that. Well, that would be through Hathor's universal love.
I already said.
Yeah.
I said that earlier.
Yeah, but no, for the purpose, because I'm recording. You know, that's how you do that.
Yeah, but even the idea of Hathor and what they represent and what their perspective is still a topsy-turvy. You can't have your cake and eat it. You have to as its start point. So what we have to do is bring in a new canvas, or go back to the original source of that seed, this is as a layer, because it could be another layer, and because what that does, it starts off a timeline, doesn't it? You plant the seed of one thing, and it starts off a timeline. So if you go back to that original seed, like with universal love, so you would do that by something like a principle, for example, like I will never fight in a war. That's a principle. And I stick by that principle. Or I will not hurt other people. And I stick by that principle. You live your life by your own chosen principles, not other people's chosen principles.
Yeah, by your code of honour. Absolutely.
So that's how you cancel out a seed that's been planted. And it's very easy to get involved in those seeds, like drink, for example.
Yeah.
Lots of people drink. Lots of people overdrink. The only way to get a new canvas is literally to stop drinking. Then you get a new canvas.
You do.
So,
and I know that from personal experience.
Just stop smoking. Yeah, sorry, and with that thing, stop smoking weed. Yeah. Oh, no, smoking weed is fantastic. It's really good for you. Actually, it's not.
No.
It's got pros and cons. Yeah. So that's, I think, how you stop a seed, by changing the canvas, which is a new thought, a new idea, something that's not been seen before. So this would include Hathors in the sense of how we see universal love now isn't how universal love is. Yeah? It's much better than what we are told that it is. And what that does, by saying, okay, I'm not having any of that, it then lines up a new way of looking at it and perceiving it as a new canvas. Yeah, that's an outside influence. Because my understanding of like universal love would be always aligning, and that's kind of the idea of asking yourself that question, because that's kind of what Hathor said. They didn't say this is what we're saying. They said ask yourself that question when you're performing love. Does it resonate with your frequency? Yeah. Does it bring me bliss? Does it bring me peace? Does it bring me joy? Yeah. And that makes perfect sense to me. There's a logic to that. And a lot of people, another way of undoing seeds is through logic, reason, and intuition. A lot of people, there's a battle between logical thinkers and intuitive thinkers. They seem to think that they just think intuitively or they just think logically. Yeah. But you don't. You think both.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
There's no separation there. Yeah.
I'm a logical thinker. There are no such things as ghosts. I'm an intuitive thinker. There are things as ghosts. You don't believe them. You're stupid. But we both. Every person thinks in the same way. And unfortunately, logic loses out in that battle. And logic is incredibly important because it's the very thing that we use to say, well, does this bring you peace, love, joy, harmony, and so on? And it also allows us to create that new canvas. Like, essentially, logic is the new canvas, and intuition is the paints and the
paintbrushes.
No, reason is the paintbrushes. Is the paints and the marks that you make on that canvas. Yeah, because logic would say, well, you need to have composition. Yeah, but the hand and the intuition has to go. Is that right? It doesn't feel right. Why doesn't it feel right? I'm going to leave it till tomorrow, and then you make out, oh no, it looks alright actually. Or no, I'm going to rub it all out and start again. So I think that's how you get rid of those seeds, by developing your logic and your reason and your intuition. And how you do that is, I think, very simply asking yourself, fundamental questions that are quite simple. Like, does this bring you joy, peace, harmony? Like if you're working on a canvas or on the computer and you're thinking, God, this is so boring, this is such hard work. What drives you then to do it?
There's no logic.
It's always, yeah, exactly. There is no logic to it whatsoever. And it's always money. It's always, or time. I need to get this done. Or, I don't know, what, society. I need to do the housework because someone's coming here and they're going to go,
Look at the state of
They're
this
going to
mess.
run their finger
Look at the
with
state
the
of
white
this mess.
glove. Yeah.
oh, but gas, don't be invited here. It should be sparkling.
Should be
It's
sparkling,
It's
yeah.
span!
Catch something.
I catch the dog.
I might catch dust mites.
Dust mites.
You know,
I might catch termites.
I'm never coming here again. It's so dirty.
Good fucking riddance.
Whereas if you go to someone who's following the pandemic, oh, I like this place, it's really nice, it's got a little hand sanitizer thing at the door. You know, got to take all your clothes off and wear this plastic suit. You know,
Right here.
anyway, I've gone off on the side cell. So, but it's always bringing it back to like that simplicity. But it's not to say that if something's not working, start a new canvas. If it's not working, start a new canvas. But also at the same time, and this is the clever bit, is to say when something is actually working. So for example, if you're going on, so there's a start point for that seed, which is the narrative, the story. There's a story being told. So at any point you can change that story, can't you?
Yeah.
Rather than not trying to be the part of the story, you can actually be part of the story, but a different aspects of that story, which helps with the bigger things in life. So if there's a war, you're anti-war. If there is, well, if there are insidious things going on, you can be the kind of, what do they call it, the cure for that. Like what's going on at the moment, there has been a cure for that, and there's been people that have said, hold on a minute, this doesn't seem quite right. There's something amiss here. I think we learn a lot from Sherlock Holmes actually, because he looks at fine detail.
You know what's interesting about what you just said? It's like people are, whether they're realising it or not, they're kind of like, this illusion's not quite as robust as the illusion that was created before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if this illusion isn't as robust as the illusion they created before, then we can break the old illusion as well.
Yeah.
The veil.
The template's been broken once. Once you've got that key, you can't go back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But bear in mind, you know, as a layer, none of this stuff is kind of proven, and that's the bit I want to see change. Because, you know, it's all very well talking about portals and things. I want to see some action. I am talking to the university. I want to see some action. I actually want to see changes going on, like substantial changes. You know, not like the whole world is put into lockdown at the whim and fancy of some insidious being. I want to see people spontaneously killed. I want to see people spontaneously become successful.
Yeah.
I want to see, I don't know, a tree grab a human being, tries to chop it down and strangles him to death.
Jesus. Or the very least throw him down the road.
Yes, well, we're coming back to life.
This is
Is
the
there more
orcs.
chopping us down?
Treebeard is alive and well.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, no, that's possible because Tolkien wrote about
Tolkien wrote about it, absolutely.
Go
So,
Ents.
you know, I'm not saying that. I don't want to see anyone strangled or anything like that. But the point is,
Well, if trees did that, no one would be chopping down trees, would they?
no,
Unless they had death wish.
at war with trees, wasn't it? Yeah.
Which
We're at war.
Tolkien wrote about that as well.
War against
Because
the
when the Ents woke up, they were rallied against as well by the dark forces.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Bloody
Obviously,
Mordor.
Yeah.
he had a clear line to
No.
the neutrinos.
Wait.
Yeah, so it's like labels on the jars, and now that we're recording it, I definitely want to get that label on the jar. So over to you, get the label on the jar because you were going quite well there until you decided to record it.
Well, we've discussed how you negate those fear seeds. We discussed that.
No, but you were going somewhere with that, and then you stopped and put the recorder on, and then you ended up going back. So you did yourself a disjustice, sir.
Misjustice.
Because now you haven't got your thread back.
No, but you did continue that thread. Negate the fear seeds.
Yeah.
So how this conversation came about is we were asking the question. So if, powerful creator beings that we are, beings of light, in a spacesuit, the only way anything can get in is via the mind. So, because all three of us have had cults, which is the end of the cycle, because in December 2019 we all had colds or like symptoms of colds or flu. Yeah. So if nothing can get in, then what is that? What are those symptoms? What are they actually an indication of?
Shush.
And we put forward the hypothesis that these are symptoms of moving through a portal. So you've only got to look at something like Stargate. So when they pass through the Stargate, so there's a Prezi under the tree. That's why he's like that.
Go under
No, he won't. Just let him be for a minute while I finish this. So when they move through the Stargate, they talk about it being a very strange experience, and that you need to be calm when you walk through it. And when they get through the other side, but they show it once, I think, maybe twice, where they're covered in a frost. So there's been a transformation, and they are forever changed by this moving through a portal. So when you take... So we're beings of light, but we're also beings, we have liquid inside us, blood, yeah, and we, when we cut ourselves, we can see that, because it cleans the wound and then it seals the wound.
That's one layer.
Thank you. So when we're being squeezed as we move through a portal, stuff's going to come out. In whichever way, shape or form that is. So, snot, phlegm. Some people it's, from the other end, diarrhea. They might be constantly going to the toilet. So when we're squeezed as we're moving through this portal, as we're moving through the sieve, as we call it, we're being shaken, it's like, the way to navigate that, and lots of people talk about this, is to come to the still point and rest and observe the symptoms. Don't attach emotions to those symptoms. When those feelings come up, observe them. Don't attach a label, yeah? Because when you label something, that then takes you off on a tangent, and takes you off your center point, your still point, your North Star, your home, if you like. So as you move through this portal, when you stay in that center point, your symptoms are going to be a lot less rigorous than if you fight it. If you fight going through that Stargate, it's going to play havoc with your whole being. Yeah. Because even if you take something like Star Trek, yeah, when they use a transporter, what does it do? In order to transport you from A to B,
breaks you into pieces.
You're broken up into pieces and then put back together the other end. So these symptoms that people are experiencing, if they are fighting it, they're fighting almost like a natural process of going through portals, which is, basically breaking everything down, burning away the stuff that you don't need anymore, because then that makes that transition easier, which that guy was talking about when he fell, when he had his near-death experience and he felt like things are literally being ripped off of him, yeah, and it wasn't pleasant, he said, didn't he? As he was falling through the light, through the portal, through the sieve, this stuff was being removed from him, which is what these symptoms are. It's that's how our physical bodies get the toxicity out, through sweat, through mucus, through snot, through wee, through poo, phlegm, tears, earwax, and any of these orifices where things come out, it's going to come out. It's going to come out because, the slipperier you are moving through that portal, so the more, the less attachments you have to your aura, for want of a better word, to your light body, yeah, the smoother it's going to be moving through that portal. Like a snake. Yeah. So if you've got lots of labels that you plug into, it's going to be a rigorous journey as you move through the portal. And clearly, we've moved through a portal, because we were talking earlier about, there are times of the year when people get really ill. And one of those times of year is between what they call, for us, it's the Yule. Yule goes all the way up till the 21st of January. But for the people that plug into the Christmas New Year thing, that's a massive portal. So you get to January the 1st, 2nd, etc., and people get sick because they've loaded their whole being with toxicity.
There is another one in the summer, that's hay fever.
Yep.
So it must be every 6 months.
The big portal there.
Solstice.
Which bit? No. Well, yes, but the bigger one, Big Beltane, because that's another huge veil lift, like Samhain.
But then you could say, a couple of things come to mind. One is that there's a layer. So when we're talking about these things, we're talking about them as layers. Because if you don't talk about things as layers, then you're constantly going with a narrative. Ah ha ha.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, so you have to do later because they're all timelines.
That's fluidic thinking, though, isn't it?
And then, if there's a timeline that you like, you think, oh, this is quite nice. Yeah. And you'll stay with that timeline.
Mm.
And that's kind of what most people are doing, aren't they? Most people are going, I don't like this timeline.
Yeah. I want a
I
different timeline.
I would like to do something. Essentially, they say, I like to do something. I want a new job, or I want a new boyfriend, I want a new girlfriend, I want to have new parents.
I'm fed up with the government telling me what to do. I'm not going to do that anymore. We're hearing that quite a lot.
So essentially, they're saying, I want a new timeline. So they're layers.
Mm.
The idea of portals. I mean, it says it in Witchcraft, because if you think there are eight sabbats.
Yeah.
With, what was it, 12? Is it 12 aspects?
There's actually 13.
13.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, what's that in total?
21.
So if you look at those as
Wow.
portals,
Yes.
or as representation, this is a layer,
Mm.
as representations of portals that you're going through. So they're not actually called Beltanes. They're just kind of recognised as things that could happen within that portal. Because if you think about it, each sabbat tells you what's going to happen in the next bit of the portal.
Yeah.
So I can pick anyone. In bulk.
Yeah, that's our next one.
So what's going to happen when we go through that portal?
Mm.
So it tells us, doesn't it? It tells us, well,
That's the awakening of the earth. So the earth begins to wake up, because you start seeing, although they're already there, if you look carefully, you can already see the buds on the trees, and it never stops. Life doesn't just go, oh, I'm stopping now, and then
So
I'm going to start again in bulk. No, it's a cycle. It's a continual process of energy. But you actually start to see it more clearly, if you like.
but it's a perception, because I think
Yeah.
perception is very closely related to the timeline.
Mm.
Not the timeline, like going through a portal into a different dimension. Because the dimension of summer is very different to the dimension of winter.
Mm.
But that's interesting.
Even in that,
it
yeah.
tells you.
So there's 4 ages, yeah.
Mm.
And there's 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So it's cycles within the cycles.
Mm.
Distracting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that in Witchcraft they talk about the sabbats and the nesbats,
Mm.
which are portals, and they actually tell you what happens when you go through that portal.
Yeah.
Which is reflected in what you see.
Yeah.
Physically in the world.
Mm.
Do you think that's fair?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So if we're looking at like a cold, so you're getting a cold in the summer, because it's essentially, they call it hay fever, but essentially it's cold symptoms.
Yeah, it's the same symptoms.
Yeah, because it's fever.
So they say that's pollen going into the body.
Yeah.
How could something go into the body?
But
Exactly.
if you're going with the layer of that, and that's a layer, the pollen going into the body. Or for example, time never had anything like that, and then all of a sudden they start getting hay fever. Or that's all it is. I think about hay fever. Really? What's happening?
Yeah.
Well, there's sure symptoms. If you take these pharmaceuticals,
Mm.
you'll feel better.
Yeah.
So yeah, you essentially you want to be getting on the timeline that you want to stay with. So it's how to do that. It's how to get on the timeline that you want. I think that's kind of what we're talking about, isn't it? To some degree. But we don't want ascension to be something insidious. We don't want life to be something insidious, like you were saying earlier. You know, wars and there's some horrible people. Oh, that's where you finished. So expand on that when you're talking about that, because that was interesting. You were saying, you know, wars and there's some really horrible people on the planet.
Yeah, well, the kind of the premise that I arrived at. So, Kali Yuga is a natural cycle if you go by the ancient Hindu texts. Yeah. So it is a natural part of the cycle that we enter into, a bit like winter, into like a, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a death, if you like. So the leaves fall off the trees, they become mulch. You know, you get that amazing smell when you walk through a forest. It's the same thing. It's the same cycle, but it spans 1,200 years.
Oh, go on, count.
But where this has changed for us is we've had some very insidious, opportunistic beings that have gone, oh, look at that over there. Those people look like they're in a bit of a trouble there. Should we go and help them? No. Let's go in there and cash in on that, shall we? So that's where it's changed for us, because we've got these beings that are not creative beings. They have to use our creative energy. And in order for them to thrive and keep this illusion going, since Kali Yuga ended in 1915, you know, they keep perpetrating this illusion, because without that illusion we would then know that we were no longer in this energy. What were you going to say?
Well, two things actually that come up. One is like those beings, do they like as a layer belong to that particular age?
I wouldn't have said so, no.
Well, if you have an age, you've got to have someone to then bring in that age, wouldn't you? Like we talk about like the age of
Aquarius.
Yeah, age of Aquarius, but what's the next age?
Pisces. It was Pisces was the one before.
No, but what's the age that we're going into Hindu?
Oh,
It finished in 1915.
Oh, Kali Yuga?
no, that's the one we've come out of. So the next one, according to this amazing thing that I found, is Krita, the golden age of Krita, Krita. That's the golden age.
So what was the one before that? What age was that called? That's the golden age. What was that one called? The one we just come out of?
No, we've just come out of Kali Yuga, and we're going back into Krita, which is the the Golden Age.
Yeah, but what was the... Well, you're saying that this one is the Golden Age.
Yes.
What was the one before that? Yeah, was it the Bronze Age? Was it a little bit Naff Age?
It's a bit of a naff age.
Yeah.
It's
A little
Kali
bit
Yuga.
frustrating age.
Right, well it goes Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and then Kali Yuga.
Right, well, what is that age? This is the Golden Age. What are those ages? Are they separated in colours, or...?
I don't know what you mean, babe.
Well, they say this is the Golden Age.
Yeah, the Golden Age of Krita Yuga.
Right, so that represents, like, a marvellous time.
Yeah.
So what was the one before? What did that represent?
Before that was Kali Yuga, which is the... Whoops. I'll do that. The corrupt age went, and the word corrupt doesn't mean the same as the label that people put on it now. It's actually an ending, so things breaking down. That's what that means, and it's actually the shortest of all the 4 ages. The longest being the one that we are now in. That's the longest age.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind is, so I was saying, those beings from the previous age,
Kali.
Kali age, in that age, they would be right and proper to be here, to bring in that age. The age of destruction, is it?
Endings.
The age of endings.
Yes. Breaking down of things before it is reborn, which is where we are now.
So, is it, in a way, that's kind of what they're doing now, isn't it? They're breaking down society.
Well, it appears that they are breaking down society, but I think what is actually happening is their institutions are breaking down. They're trying to take us with them.
Well, in saying both, there's 2 layers. You know, on one layer, you could say that they're breaking down, which would be their job, because a higher being wouldn't do that, would they? They don't destroy; they create. Difference, isn't it? That's the difference between us, human beings,
And them, because they are not creator beings. Yes.
but they are destroyer beings. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, if you go with the energy of Kali, she breaks things down to be reborn. So it is part of the natural cycle of things. I mean, was that particular age infiltrated? Quite possibly by beings that, if you go by what Laurie Ladd talks about, it was opened up. So maybe that was the issue. So when the gates opened for beings to come and kind of experience these ages, a few slipped through the net that were a little bit too extreme in there. But then it's not destruction they're about, is it? It's about control. They're about control, not breaking things down. What we're seeing isn't the breaking down of things, it's the trying to control things. Even nature, they're trying to control nature. So their fear is all about being out of control. Because they obviously fear the natural order of things, because they're not created beings. So they try and control things, because they're in fear of the natural order. Which is why they don't like nature. That's why they attack nature. Because that's the natural order of things right there in front of their face.
So if you take like the idea of Satan, for example, because he's described as the illuminated one, or one of the illuminated ones. But Satan as in a form of energy. Now would that energy come into, like if that energy was to come into this realm, or the realm that's just passed, so like the way forward, like our wizard that's in their picture out there, holding up the lamp, illumination, he would have to come in disguise, wouldn't he? He would have to come as one of them.
Yeah.
Otherwise he would be shot down, wouldn't he, immediately? And is that some of the... Does it make sense? Like if he's coming into an age which is dominated by very insidious beings who are about destroying, and it got to the point where there had to be an area created for humans in which they could survive. That could be the same to do with dinosaurs, for example. I mean, we wouldn't survive in that arena.
Unless you went underground.
Yeah, well, if you've got the technology, you could build anything. You can build a Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Underground.
Yeah, you could.
And as I say, this is a layer. So another layer would be that if the person who was supposed to keep us in Garden of Eden got a little bit zealous, wouldn't allow us to live, and it's underground, and then Satan comes along and says, well, hold on a minute, I don't agree with this. This is ridiculous. This stops. It
stops now.
They can come to the surface now. Yeah. Oh no, they've got to stay in the garden. No, that's part of their evolution. They have to come to the surface and grow as beings, so they can become super beings like me.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting about that narrative as a layer is if you're giving beings knowledge, because she could Eve could have eaten as much fruit as she wanted from that tree, and one has to wonder what the knowledge and information on that tree is.
Well, the apple is a symbol, because it has the pentacle in the middle of life, death and rebirth. That's what that is.
So, well, I think, I mean, I like that, but I think there's probably a lot more on that tree than probably meets the eye.
Yeah.
You're taking, if you are wanting to be, you're taking an awful risk with another being by giving them that information. So anyway, essentially what I'm sort of saying is that if an angel had to come into this realm, or the realm, whatever layer that you're looking at, like you're either in realm where we're moving into from Pisces to Aquarius, or from the Hindu point of view. And there is no time as we perceive it anyway. There's another. So if we don't see it as time, if a being chose to, a bit like here's another little topsy-turvy. Maybe the Sumerians and their stories are not about what happened to them in their past. Maybe they're talking about what's in the future right now, where we see two brothers, so you could say Michael and Satan, Lucifer, being of equal abilities and equal within the heaven's hierarchy, and they just that one way and another believes another way, but either way it's not wrong. It's just different.
Yeah.
Because one thing you don't see, what you do see happen from God's point of view, you don't see from angels' point of view. Like there are, as far as I know, there are no angels that declare that you should go and rape people. Either way, Satan. There are no angels that they always seem to do the bidding of God. I don't know if that makes sense. So maybe God is the problem, or the perception of what God is as a layer.
And you could say is being manipulated by the insidious beings that are infiltrators here to, they commit genocide. Oh well, it was in God's name, so it's righteous.
Righteous genocide.
They do. Wars. Oh, it's religious war. God told us that we must do this. It's righteous.
Do you know, that'd be really interesting. Do you know, we should write to that bloke.
What bloke?
The bloke's got the machine, that spirit
box.
Ah, yeah.
We should ask
the bridge.
him.
Yeah.
We should ask him to get Michael come through, because he said he had Lucifer come through. I don't know, on one of the videos. We should ask him, or at least someone that's neutral who's got one of those, and ask them what they think of each other. Because they are brothers. Because I've never ever heard Michael say, well, I think Lucifer is a bit of a prick, and
he's always playing pranks.
because they do have to do that, don't they? They do have to go, follow me. I'm the right one to follow. They do have to do that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I'm Michael the righteous, or I'm Satan the illuminator. So if you're questioning them, because they're a species, I'm very strong on that one actually.
The Nephilim.
It's a peculiar thing with me. It's kind of like, it really relates to me that they are a species. But neither one is. It's not really. They're not really insidious, are they? Michael's always portrayed as a beautiful being, and he is. He is someone who helps, wants to help.
Yeah.
Well, that's no different to Lucifer.
Yeah.
Someone that wants to help, right? So it seems like, to me, it's like God is the problem in this. That's kind of what sort of comes up.
The rising force, yeah.
Well, Michael's supposed to sit on the right hand side. I think it's the right hand side, one of the sides of God, because he's an archangel. There's a hierarchy, but even there, why would you do that? Why would you create? It's like he's taken a species and gone, you're better than these ones.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. That's creating division again. And if you get, this is a layout, and if you go with this narrative. But whenever I feel those energies coming through, like through other people, they all seem benevolent. They always seem to not be that interested in if buts and maybe. They're more interested in how can we get you to be illuminated and be better than what you are. Either way, if you read the stories of us, it's exactly the same thing as Michael or any of the other angels. And this idea of demons, I think, is it's what's the word? Distorted. It's like, well, what can we call the other angels that disagree with these? Are all call them demons. Well, why would you, if you're an all-powerful being, which angels are, why would you make yourself look like, I don't know,
A hideous thing.
a hideous thing? Well, for what purpose?
But even then, when you look at your cards, they're not hideous beings.
No.
They're different. They're not hideous looking, they're just different.
No, but they're portrayed as that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So, and we know that the shapeshifters, they're, well, they're very big, from what I've read. 6 between the giants. They're lucid, they're water-like, and they have wings. Not all the time, they can manifest them and do
Demanifest.
Neutrinos.
Yeah.
That says neutrinos to me.
Yeah. And they walk through time as well, so they're time lords as well.
Time Lords.
Yeah, they are, they're time lords. Because they can appear right at the exact moment, can't they?
Do you want me to stop the recording or pause it? Or...
Yeah, pulse it, yeah. Because I don't think we've got to more practical bits and pieces, which is the bit I wanted to get to, but obviously it's not going to.
I'll tell you what I was thinking
Conversation.
when we were talking about logic and reason. It's a very heart. It's like there's a. When you are coming from here, from your heart center, it involves all those things: logic, reason, intuition. That's kind of what that is. That's what it encompasses, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a very. It's very clear. There's a clarity when you come from that space. So I think this is going to be part 1 of a bigger conversation. Hope you've enjoyed this, and happy 2022.